Emerging from a 7-mile run through dense forest high above Gareloch, travellers get their first sight of the classic West Highland station at Garelochhead. The distinctive Swiss chalet-style buildings, an island platform, complete with typical but disused signal box. Since the introduction of a sophisticated radio signalling system in 1988, all the intermediate stations have been unstaffed, although someone still tends to the odd flower basket here. The landmass narrows to just 1¼ miles wide, separating Loch Long from Loch Lomond, the latter being familiar to many due to the famous song lamenting its bonny, bonny banks. The North British Railway had a considerable stake in this popular tourist area, having taken control of the Loch Lomond steamships. Out alongside Loch Lomond, the line now meanders through a dense forest of birch trees, economically hugging the hillside contours. The typical mass of Ben Vorlich, with a peak of 3,094 feet, towers above the line. Dozens of small bridges carry the line over mountain streams, the dry beds of which become torrents in winter. This is the land of hydroelectric power, where pipes funnel water from Loch Sloy into a generating station. To blend in with the landscape around Loch Lomond, Craigenarden Viaduct was built, with 8 arches and grand castellated parapets. This was an exceptionally difficult section of line to build, squeezed as it is on a narrow ledge blasted out of solid rock. "60 miles from Glasgow, the train stops at the former railway crossroads of Crianlarich. The Callander and Oban line from Edinburgh approached through Glendocket from the east, but closed in 1965, leaving Crianlarich as the junction for the remaining branch to Oban. In the days before restaurant cars, West Highland trains used to take an extended break here to allow passengers to take refreshments. We are now in Argyllshire, perched on a high ledge overlooking Glen Ork, the view spanning a wide panorama stretching all the way to Bridge of Orkney. In the foreground, one of General Wade's old military roads forming a part of the West Highland Way. The famous and well-trodden route for walkers extends all the way from Milngavie to Fort William. Bridge of Orkney marked the boundary of civilization when the railway was built. Even today there is only a handful of houses and a hotel here. The bridge was on the old military road where it crossed the River Orkney. Now the A82 trunk road parts company and heads northwest towards Glencoe and Ballachulish. The railway, leaving the last vestiges of civilization behind, climbs northeast alongside the water of Tulla towards Rannoch Moor. In the middle of the wilderness lies Gordon, established here purely to provide a passing place for the trains. With traditional signalling, that meant providing the staff to work it. Until 1968, a signal box stood on an island platform attached to a small house, where the signalman and his family lived. An old coach body was provided for the children's education. It was Britain's remotest schoolhouse. Rannoch Hotel appears in the distance. The tiny community lies at the end of a 16-mile-long road from Kinloch Rannoch, and a similar distance again to the nearest large town of Pitlochry. Just to the north of Rannoch Station, a 1,000-foot wide depression required the building of a high embankment and the line's largest and most expensive viaduct. Rannoch Viaduct is 684 feet long and 50 feet high. In 1895, just after the railway opened, one of the worst winters in living memory rendered the route across the moors impassable for weeks on end, and snow fences were subsequently erected either side of the line in the areas most prone to drifting. The remains of Lughnaclug Shooting Lodge, reflecting a way of life going back centuries, when parties of gentlemen would venture out onto the moors in search of game. With the social changes around the time of the First World War, the dozens of lodges fell into disrepair. We now turn to the north, high above Loch Treig, itself as isolated and unspoilt as the day the railway was built. The line hugs the eastern bank of the loch for 5 miles, dropping over 260 feet in the process. train traverses the ledge perched precariously above Monacy Gorge. Not so spectacular in summer months, but in winter a series of spectacular cascading waterfalls. This is Fort William Junction, where the Mallig line joins. Towering above Fort William is Ben Nevis, Britain's highest mountain, at 4,406 feet above sea level. Fort William is the main tourist centre for the West Highlands, and each summer a regular service of steam trains runs over the West Highland branch from Fort William to Mallig, still a vital link to the various islands off the west coast throughout the year. The line is reputedly Britain's most scenic railway, so climb aboard and sample the delights of the road to the Isles.